No. Switch up.
$5:30.
Okay, are you ready? Ready to go? Yep. Recording? Okay.
Recording noise.
I know it didn't. How long has it been recording? I'm gonna go ahead. Call this meeting of the regular session of the Red Oak City Council to order this Tuesday, February 18th, 2025. It is 5:30 here at the Red Oak Fire Station located at 1904 North Broadway. Reminder, this meeting is being recorded. It is open to the public. We ask that you all turn your phones to silence, please. And if you need to take a call, you may exit outside to take the call. We'll go ahead and I'll say the rest later. How's that? Should I say the rest later? Yeah. Public comments. All right. So invocation by Pastor AJ Barada from First Christian Church. Please speak.
Friends, will you pray with me? Lord God, thank you so much for this time to come together for the betterment of this city. God, help us use this time to make Red Oak a better place, a more hospitable place, but more importantly, let us use this time to help make sure your will is being enacted here in Red Oak. So give us the wisdom and the patience to meet with each other and continue to pursue what is best for your kingdom here on earth and for the city as a whole. We say all this in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Councilman Bills, will you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, Ashley. Bradley. Here. Bill.
Here.
Frale.
Here.
Isaac.
Here.
Hebrink.
Present.
Number 6 is proclamations and special notices. I just want to acknowledge that Shane Harrison is with our water department. He currently has operator 2 license certification to operate. He's our main operator license for the water treatment facility. He just completed his wastewater 1 and so he's now dual trained in both water and wastewater. And I apparently is going to be going for his his water 3, which will up our standards and be ready for our future. So just wanted to acknowledge Shane and thank him for putting time into doing that. And it's great for us to have our trained people. So
On a side note,
that's Harry. Shane is Harry.
I get it, but on a side note, I'd like to add that that's a direct result of the leadership of our new water superintendent down there. So
Correct.
thanks so much to Clint for all that inspiration he puts in down there.
So congratulations, Shane.
Yeah.
All right. Number 7 is public comments.
What about 5?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Number 5, approval of the agenda. I wrote all there.
Can't approve the agenda. It's wrong.
Why?
You have an approval to address the city council from Joey Norris. You have him under public comments, which is wrong. That should be a separate line item.
At the December council meeting.
Yep.
The city council, including all 5 of you, adopted a public comment policy.
Public comments, but that does not cover request to address the council.
Right, but we changed it that when
No,
you,
you did not change that.
Yes, we have a
The
5-0
public
vote.
comments we changed, we did not change the request to address the council.
We did via the minutes of the meeting that we discussed, and it was a
said
5-0
if someone
vote.
wishes to address the council, because citizens don't make the council's business agenda. They can come before the council and speak. And then we explained that if you're requesting ahead of time, that you then have the opportunity to be on here. The council knows you're coming
Then
and you
why
can
was
put,
it approved?
what do you mean?
The request was approved. It shows it right here on the first screen.
Right, because it was
Then he
approved to
should
be,
be allowed to talk to the council,
he is gonna be able
Joey
to
is
speak for
aware
3
that
not
he
minutes.
has
under the
3
3-minute
minutes.
rule.
Yes,
You understood when we
Yes.
talked about it. I met with him in person last week, Thursday. And I said,
I
you will
think
have
you're
your
totally
things.
wrong.
I'll move
You're
to approve the
discriminating
agenda.
against the
all right,
man.
bills? Do I have a second? Bradley? Okay, roll call. Bill?
Yes.
Right off?
Yes.
Isaac?
No,
Hebring?
Yes.
Bradley? Yes. Number 6 was proclamations, so I went ahead of that. Number 7 is public comments. Again, this is a business meeting of the Red Oak City Council. We don't by law have to have public comments. In fact, we added public comments back in early 2022 because we didn't have public comments on the agenda at that time. So we did add them, and then we also have established a public comment policy, which we did indeed approve in December. So we have that. And then because Joey did submit and met with Lisa to discuss the curbside garbage and recycling, he is the first to go. Last time, Kevin was there and he chose to go last. So Joey, would you like to go first?
Yeah, if that's all right with everybody else on the thing there, I'd like to go if I could.
Please do. So also, when you come forward, you have to have signed in, state your name and your address. Oh, wait, and I need Luke to make a statement real quick.
Hello, everyone. Luke Malott, PD. Probably don't see me because I work nights. We have received some threats towards council members. It's not gonna be tolerated in the meetings at all, okay? We should not be making threats in any ways. We should be civil with everything. Can we please be understandable with that? Any threats tonight or anything will be asked to leave. If it continues, you will be removed. Okay?
Thank you. All right, Joey. And please, no talking during the meeting. This is a council meeting. It's so we can hear. We can't hear when there's other chit chat. So you have the stage.
All right. Hello, my name is Joey Norris. I'm here to speak to you tonight on behalf of the Mayor's Landfill Diversion Ad Hoc Committee. We are an informal group that's been meeting off and on since about this time last year. Our purpose has been to look at the methods for reducing the volume of things that go to the landfill. According to the Iowa DNR, approximately 70% of refuse in Iowa could have been diverted through recycling, composting, and reuse. And we decided to focus our efforts on recycling specifically. After getting a feel for how landfill, transfer station, and recycling systems, at least in our minds, work, in our area. Our original focus was to improve the taxpayer-funded recycling program that already exists in Red Oak, which is those batten bins out south of the square. However, once the curbside trash discussion came up, we decided to shift our focus to try and think about a curbside recycling program as well. And under Iowa Code Chapter 455D.21, a city council which provides for the collection of solid waste by its residents shall consider a proposed ordinance the mandatory curbside collection of recycled materials which have been separated from other solid waste. So I'll leave the understanding of ordinances and what's considered all up to you guys, but the committee's suggestion is that the city seeks proposals for curbside recycling as well as trash. Randall Wilson is a member of our committee, was nice enough to put together the information that you have in your packet. It includes additional sections of Iowa Code prioritizing statewide waste reduction. I can only speak for myself, but I hope most would agree that after watching the trash mountain grow over there in Mills County, that modernizing our recycling program might be appealing. So we've been collecting information on other communities' trash and recycling services. Our best examples are Forest City and Humboldt, Iowa. Both are about our size and offer curbside recycling for $5 a month and pickups every other week. If you compare this price to the $290 we're already paying, the curbside single stream seems like a pretty significant improvement. I only have 3 minutes today and I have less than 30 seconds now, but I want to offer our council, the council, our committee as a resource. We've been collecting a lot of information from different communities in Iowa and the Midwest. So come to us if you
30
have questions.
seconds.
Now 30 seconds?
Now 30.
Oh, okay.
Just for that 30
Thank you.
seconds. Couple more.
Great, thank you. Ultimately, the details of a curbside program will be up to you and then the haulers and their capabilities. However, we can provide rough estimates of what some of our peer communities have gone through. So again, we're a resource. We urge you to put out a request for proposal for curbside recycling program. And that's it.
And
Thank you very much.
thank you. Thank you, Joey.
Joey.
Appreciate you being there. All right. Let's see. So I'll start at the top. Debbie Johnson. And please state your name. And again, you have 3 minutes and she will hold up the 30 seconds.
For you to look at.
Okay.
The council members. So I'm Debbie Johnson. I'm a resident and a landlord here in Red Oak. And I'm primarily here because of a discrepancy on the rental permit fee resolution 2025-11 approved on 2/3. Copies are provided to you for reference. I want to start by playing a recording which speaks for itself of Ms. Cotter outlining this approval. So as you can see, I think the recording speaks for itself. And as you can see, the resolution does not say what the recording actually was and was approved. So I would ask that Ms. Cotter make sure that this resolution 2025-11 is corrected immediately. And I'm pretty sure it is the law anyway, that all codes and resolutions are worded exactly as approved. Just some final comments. The city administrator works for you, the council, and you as council members are here to represent us, the community, but you're not listening to us. No is no. This should be good enough for you. Reasons for and against should not matter. Over half the residents that the current garbage proposal actually affect have said and even petitioned in writing, we do not want this. In any other voting or election process, this would be enough to kill that proposal, but yet Ms. Cotter and the mayor are still pushing this. Madam Mayor and Ms. Cotter, I guess I would ask you if you are truly interested in the best interest of our community, why haven't you proposed to the council to scrap this ideal and come up with a different solution to a problem you feel exists? It's no wonder most people feel this proposal is really just another way to make the city make more money, because the rental permit inspection code adopted in 2015. 10 years later, the fees have doubled, and the reasons the city at that time proposed and approved this was due to problem properties. They still exist today. Another example is the apparent mismanaged city service, the current recycling containers, which you all know cost us $2.90 a month, which doesn't add up to the $65,000 annually, which doesn't seem like a very well negotiated contract. Times that $2.90 by the total water meters.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for your time.
Thank you. Bo Harris.
Bill Harris, 2104 Sunny Slope Drive. At a previous city council meeting, we were told Red Oak's appearance was the #1 issue on a recently completed comprehensive plan, only to later learn by one of the plan's committee members that wasn't true. It was the 5th issue of concern, yet the city is fixated on #5. We have been told there are 700 households that do not have regular scheduled garbage collection, but the city has not identified what these properties do with their trash. Some of the owners may have legitimate ways of disposing of the trash. However, the city would have us believe the owners stockpile the garbage in plain sight on their property. Wouldn't it be prudent for the city to ascertain which of these properties are in violation of the city's code of ordinances and pursue remediation, rather than pass a blanket mandatory collection ordinance that would deny citizens their freedom to choose how they recycle and who they want to haul their garbage? A majority of citizens have either through signed petitions, sent emails, and or attended a recent council meeting advised city officials they do not want mandatory garbage. The will of the people have been expressed, yet the city keeps pursuing mandatory garbage collection as their cure for our appearance problems. Eliminating a few bags of trash around town is not going to improve the city's appearance. We already have an ordinance on the books for that. Ridding the community of junk vehicles, dilapidated and dangerous buildings, and discarded old appliances will improve appearance. We have ordinances on the books, but they are not being enforced. Also by code, the cost of enforcement should be borne by the violator, not the taxpayer. The city has identified 600 nuisance violations, yet less than 10% have been identified, and less than 1%, 1/10 have court dates. Elected officials taken off oath of office to enforce the city's code of ordinances. Ordinances that are not evenly enforced are useless. An elected official that fails to uphold the oath of office does not deserve to be reelected next November.
Don Gross.
Here's your updated version of the petition with now 729 official people that signed it properly, did everything properly like they're supposed to. Whether that'll do any good or not, we don't know. Now, I would like to address the council from our side of this. Let's not worry about the haulers or businesses or anything else. When you vote on this, you have to remember, not only are you affecting the 729 people that have already signed, they do not like this or do not want this, but the rest of the people who have not signed it. You're also gonna destroy or possibly destroy 13 employees of 2 businesses and the businesses, and that's their livelihood and their families. They're all gonna lose everything. So I'm asking you to keep this in mind, that please don't blindly vote because somebody says that's the way you should. You need to read all the facts. Like Shenandoah uses sanitary sanitation. Do they have, has their sound improved over the last year with them? Is their garbage? I doubt it. Another fact I can give you is Waste Management has a humongous area down in Kansas City. My uncle lives there. When they got the snow, they didn't show up for 3 weeks to get garbage. When they called them to ask them why, all their answer was, call another company, and hung up on them. Because when they have a contract, go ahead and break that contract, then you're guilty, and they'll lawsuit. Okay? So when you think about this, you have to remember, there's gonna be collateral damage. Because you vote this today, and in 10 years, when none of you are on the council anymore or anything else, we're still paying for this. Because that's what's gonna happen. So I don't know why we have not had all members have a sit down with our locals. I think that what's being said and what's getting to you are two totally different things. And I have a strong feeling that, you know, if you get it right from the horse's mouth, instead of third and fourth person, you get the truth. And that's what we need, is the truth to come out as to what's been said.
30 seconds.
I will end with, we keep hearing 30 years of experience doing this. I've never been fired from a job. I've been doing it correctly. And I did 20 years turning wrenches for a living. So I never lost my job for doing my job like I'm supposed to. Thank you.
So I want to throw something out there before we get any further and anybody else comes up to this podium. Our city administrator and our mayor are doing this at the behest of the city council. So if you want to throw stones or poke at somebody, you poke at me or the other council members. Don't poke at our city administrator or our mayor. They're doing what we tell them to do. Thank you. Sorry, I had to say that.
Lynette Bruce.
Yes, I'm going there. Come on, Kevin.
I am with you. Sorry about that.
Here are some of the notes, and this was recorded. Lisa and Shauna, I don't know how you could say we didn't answer any of your questions. This is blatantly not true. Yes, we took 2 hours for what we thought was a good meeting, a discussion. We don't have answers to some things that are not clear. We gave out some answers that weren't set in stone because of this. Some because Kevin and I need to have more discussion, and it's not true, but we are not but it's not true that we are not cooperating. But it seems you already have your minds made up, telling people we are being difficult. We offered to try and help clean up town, but that doesn't seem to work either. We were just trying to come up with some ideas.
Thank you. Kevin?
I mean, kind of piggyback.
Name and address.
Lynette said,
Name and address, please.
Kevin Cortland, Town Country.
Where do you live, Kevin?
You know,
What's your address?
210 H Street, Griswold, Iowa.
Thank you.
Born and raised
Thank you.
in Elliott, Iowa. Anything else you want to know?
No? Those are the rules of the meeting, Kevin.
Yeah.
You're a councilman in Griswold, right?
All right, well,
You have your own meeting rules up there, I'm sure.
us
We
with it.
appreciate if you follow ours. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. To kind of piggyback what Lynette has said. When you listen to the radio interview on KCSI Monday morning, you're perceived that you're getting the facts. Don't you suppose? Well, we recorded that conversation. We recorded the last 2 meetings
With permission.
with permission. They both knew it. The recorder quit at about 1 hour and 45-ish minutes. There was great discussion. It was not perceived in your interview. I've listened to it twice. And no, I'm not attacking them. It's
When the public, when I have stood here and asked to meet with you people, the ones that vote, it's not because I don't want to meet with them. This is a subject that's obviously big. And I want you to hear what I have to say, not secondhand. I don't think that was too much to ask. I sat in your position, as Mr. Bill stated. You know, if when I sat at that council, if I had 10 people come in to a meeting like this, I would really question, well, and why are we doing this? You know, I'm not saying, you know, she says we're against it. We're totally against it. We never said that. Never said it once. She says, oh, you want a year? Yeah. I asked for a year. I have copies right here of what I discussed, what I come up, and I was gonna email every one of you. But you know what? You got a lady that's done this for 50 years in this town. And she wasn't comfortable because of the repercussions of what you people might do.
30 seconds.
Thanks. So I really question, are you listening to us? Are you listening to her and her? I mean, like I said, anybody wants to listen to that that recording? I have 2 of them. You're more than welcome to. Thanks.
I'd like to sit down with you sometime, just you and me talk. I've talked with Lynette, but I would like to talk to you personally to get your feelings, not in second or third hand, but right from the horse's mouth.
And you know what, John, and I've emailed every one of you. And not to say anything bad about you or whatever, but in the beginning, I emailed every one of you. 2 of you responded. Adam and Tim. So yes, anytime any of you want to visit, my door's open, phone's always on, email's always on. Except for next week. I'm leaving Saturday, won't be back for a week. Don't try and get old. Thanks for your time.
Debbie Seifert?
Thank you, council. My name is Debbie Seifert. I live at 700 Sunset here in Red Oak. I just want to say that I'm against the city saying, you have to do this. You are not the Gestapo, and we shouldn't be treated like you're the Gestapo. You said, rumor has it that you've already signed a contract for somebody that can do our trash for $16 a month. Bullshit. Pardon my French, but bull. And if that's the case, you get what you pay for. If you're gonna pay for somebody cheap, you're gonna get cheap. Kevin and Lynette has been doing this for decades.
Yeah. All right.
Why? If you wanna do the billing for it with onto the garbage bill, okay, fine. But why do you have to put them out of business to do it? Right? You know, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Why, you're all in here, you got business owners. Why are you in business? To make a profit. You want these guys to lower their rates and everything and hurt themselves and their businesses for your petty little thing. And Shauna, you even said, you know what, let's have matching trash cans.
I think
These
this
toters.
is,
You know what,
just lower your voice and talk in a normal voice.
okay,
please.
these toters, because everybody will look uniform. And you know what, somebody driving through town, are they really gonna say, I wanna move to Red Oak because look, they got matching trash cans? That's the stupidest idea that anybody has even brought up. Let the haulers keep their business. Our people are used to paying, instead of paying the haulers, they pay the water bill. But then there's what's the problem with that? What is the problem with that? You know, she says one thing in one interview, somebody says something in another interview. You know what? I don't believe any of you guys. I don't believe any of you because you're gonna do what you're.
30 seconds.
You're gonna do what you're gonna do to hell with the citizens of Red Oak because you've got your own agenda and I sure as heck hope you're all voted out of office.
Ronald King. And we do not have a signed contract, just so everybody knows. That's a lie, flat out lie.
My name is Ronald King. I live at 509 West Washington. I am against this price deal, maybe for some of the same reasons, but I don't believe the government has any business telling me what to do. I am capable of making my own decisions and doing it the right way. And anyway, I went out and campaigned against you folks. I went out and I talked to probably over 100 different people. I talked to my family, I talked to my coworkers, I talked to my neighbors. I went to the grocery stores and walked the aisles, asked people, do you live in Red Oak? They said yes. They said yes. I asked if they knew about the trash. There's probably 10% of them that didn't even know anything about it. There was probably other ones that said they knew, but it didn't make any difference. You was gonna shove it down their throat. But you know what I did find out? Out of all those people I talked to, every one of them wanted to keep their garbage person they had, and they wanted to do it just as they are doing. And they didn't realize that you're gonna split this in half, and maybe they were gonna lose their garbage person they had. And what they were getting from these garbage people is service. And any time you get the government in here, your prices go up and you lose service. Any way you look at it. I've been around this country for a long time. And anything that the government gets involved in, any mandates, you lose your service and the prices go up sooner or later. And you just look around the country and you can hear it everywhere. And as far as the recycling goes, I recycle and I like what we got down here. I can go down there at my convenience and I can put my recycling into those containers. I might do it twice a week. I might do it 3 times a week. I don't want to put my recycling in a thing and haul it out to the curb once every 2 weeks. I probably can't even get it in one of them things. If I'm gonna recycle the way you were supposed to recycle. And that's just basically what I see. But every one of those people I talked to, not one of them said that they wanted to change the way the system was. The system is not broke. Why fix it? You've already got the 2 haulers, main haulers, although there is other haulers that is in there for competition. And competition gives you good service. They earn it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for recycling too. Joey Norris. He signed in just to sign in. Got it. Michelle Fiskus.
Oh, no.
No. And Doug Fiskus?
Does anybody else need to speak in my place?
All right. Adriana St. Lucent? Oh, you're just signing in? Got it.
Oh.
Okay, so you don't have anything to say? Okay.
Just on here.
Sorry, that's okay. All right. Thank you.
Go online.
Number 8.
You're gonna ask people online want to comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there anyone online that would like to comment? No? Okay. All right.
You can't hear the recording, it says.
Recording for when she was playing the recording from her phone.
You might want to.
Yeah.
You were listening to the resolution about
We do
the.
have a hand that just
Okay.
came up.
I don't feel have the right to shove something down the public's throat that they don't want.
She's speaking. Somebody online's gonna talk.
Yeah.
Maggie
Maggie.
McGowan.
Maggie
Where's
McCrown.
Maggie?
We cannot hear you, Maggie.
I'm unmuted. Hello?
She's not muted, doesn't look like.
I'm not muted.
We might get an echo.
I have full mic.
There we go. Just
Okay.
turn it up a little bit far.
I'm at full mic. Okay, Megan McQuan, 1580 200th Street. So I do not live in the city of Red Oak, but Red
You
Oak,
wanna, Maggie, you wanna call my cell phone?
sure.
Yeah, call my cell phone.
I have to get your number up here.
Hi, Maggie.
Okay, hi.
Can you please say your name and address for the recording?
Yes, Maggie McQuan, 1580 200th Street, Red Oak. So I do not live in the city, but I'm part of the mayor's committee for recycling. One suggestion I had thought of is to make it mandatory that all rental properties have waste collection and provided by the landlord. That would help cover several of the properties that are currently not having trash pickup.
Okay,
I'm getting an echo, so it's hard to take, but the pay-as-you-throw model that I think Joey presented is very valuable to look at and would make things more affordable. I'm not in favor of putting our local carriers out of business, but I think it is important we find a solution. Also, I would like to see the council in the city focus on cleaning up derelict properties and having more recycling and trash collection events where people can dispose of things at no charge. Thank you.
okay, thank you, Maggie. Okay, did you get her address by chance? Okay, I did not write it.
She said it, but.
Yeah, she signed it. It's on the recording.
She did say.
Okay, number 8, consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the city council meeting from February 3rd, 2025, as well as the airport commission minutes from February 14th, 2025. Also, the liquor licenses for the Red Oak Lodge, number 1304 of the Benevolent and Protective Order of Elks. This is a temporary 5-day license from February 26th to March 2nd, 2025. I believe it is for the Cattlemen's event. Take a motion to approve.
All motion to approve.
Bradley
Second.
and
We got a problem with that. I mean, why are we approving the airport commission's minutes? We didn't attend that meeting. We have no business approving their minutes.
they're in the agenda packet for your review.
If it was meant for our information only, that's fine, but it shouldn't be on the consent agenda. We're not approving their minutes.
We're approving interim into the official record of the city of Red Oak. That's all
Yes.
we're doing. We're not approving what they talked about or anything on it. We're just approving, putting in the official record.
I
of
don't
the
see
city of
it
Red Oak.
that way.
Okay, point taken, John. Thank you. All right, so I have a first by Bradley, a second by Heatbrink. Roll call.
Right off,
Yes.
Isaac,
No,
Heatbrink,
Yes.
Bradley. Yes. Bill.
Yes.
Number 9, February 18, 2025 city claims, the January 2025 warrants, and the water deposit refunds. The city claims are $193,271.11. The warrants is $645,526.31. and water deposits to be returned was $783.55.
I got a question about the warrants, these are bills that we've already paid. Couldn't that be put under the consent agenda?
We used to do it that way, but we broke them out so we could identify the exact amount, because before we weren't even identifying how much we spent. And so we broke it out so we could actually state the amount so people would know how much money we spent. That's why we do it that way, John. But we used to, you're right, we used to have a consent agenda, but we felt it'd be more transparent to break it out so we could identify the amount.
I think it'd be, who was to put it back on the consent agenda?
Council up for that. Doesn't matter one way or another, I don't think. Point taken. All right. Have a motion to approve
So moved.
bills
Second.
and write-off. Roll call.
Isaac,
No,
Hebring,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
right off.
Yes.
Number 10, municipal weekly garbage pickup update for the city council on meeting with the two haulers and the question and answer public meeting tomorrow evening at the YMCA at 6 p.m. Everything was provided in your packet. And is there anything else you'd like to add?
No. Is it open for discussion?
If you would like to, Todd?
I would just like to say that when I was elected, this is my second year on the city council. And I was elected at an at-large position, which means that I am responsible for the citizens of this community as an at-large candidate. So I have had a lot of opposition with the garbage pickup. I think that the city, I have been on the comprehensive plan committee for 2 years. One of the things on the comprehensive plan, two of the things that we really want to work on is the citywide cleanup, and also it was for mandatory garbage pickup. My feeling from all of you and the people that I've heard from, which I feel very responsible for, are opposed to it. When I came back to the city, I saw a real need for the citywide cleanup. I was in property management for 30 years. Not residential, but medical property management. And I came back and I thought, this city really needs to be cleaned up. But the right way to do it isn't to be negative. So as citizens, we have to take the responsibility to clean up our city without throwing darts at the government or our city council people or whatever. I would propose that we don't do the citywide cleanup or the garbage. I think we should do a citywide cleanup 3 or 4 times a year, which would add to your water bill, maybe $3 or $4. But I think we can clean the city up if we go that direction. It would be a totally different thing for us because we have to haul our garbage out of the county, and that costs a lot of money. So it's going to cost us money. But I think we need to try that direction and have everybody have a positive attitude and try to clean up your own blocks in the city. Go to your neighbors and say, we need to work together with this. We're not trying to work against you. We want to work with you. We haven't made a decision to do this at all. And I propose to the council that we go to the citywide cleanup instead of the mandatory garbage pickup.
Yes.
No.
No.
Nope, sorry.
Nope.
All right.
Thank you.
And the only point I was going to make is that the entire purpose of this discussion was to get to a cleaner community. Could you, everybody please be quiet? Thank you. I would, just propose that everybody remember the whole purpose behind why we're doing this, and that is to clean things up and to help people find pride back in all neighborhoods of town. So that as we are promoting our community and trying to attract people to not only visit here, but to live here, that they have a beautiful place to come to. So that was the whole idea here is the cleaning the properties up. And the challenge that we have with our nuisance code is it does in fact cost taxpayers a lot of money for each of the things that we're doing. And I see you saying that from our attorney's perspective, the process that we have to follow, it does cost a significant amount of money. It also causes issues on the streets. So those were challenges that were part of why this even came forward. So that's all I have. Do you have anything?
No, I don't disagree with you, Sharon.
Yeah, I agree with Sharon 100%.
I have been from the beginning willing to look at every avenue. I wanted to explore all options, including a curbside pickup. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, we should be able to look into all different avenues to make the best decision that we can if there's any decision to be made. But the attacks, the name calling, the mudslinging, it's appalling because nobody's ever actually asked me what I thought. I've just been grouped in with what everyone seems to think the city is going to do, when in fact, we haven't done anything except try to get information. Now, there's arguments one way or the other, whether or not we're getting it. I'm not going to get into the mud of that. But I, for one, have never been against working with our local haulers to make an initiative like this possible. I take a small offense to the comment about the Gestapo because that's ludicrous. This is not communism. We have ordinances on the books that regulate sound. We have ordinances on the book that tell you when you can and cannot set off fireworks. We've got ordinance all over the place of regulating daily life within a municipality. It is not unreasonable to look at one that says we think all of our residents should have to have their garbage removed on a weekly basis. That's not unreasonable. Now, the way we go about that could seem unreasonable, but we haven't gone about it anyway. And again, no one's come to me to ask me what I thought. I've tried to look at it very objectively from both sides, from those that do support it and they are out there. They're not as vocal and they choose not to be because they've seen how people are treated when they are. So that goes back to my call for civility in all of this 2 weeks ago. Be civil. Why can't we just be civil to each other? I'm a business person. I am a volunteer. I'm a consumer of goods and services within this city. I care a lot. And I've never once said that I don't want to work with Lynette or Kevin in this. Never said that. And if I misinterpreted something in your email, Kevin, that was inviting me to the table somewhere, I apologize. Because I'd have been more than happy to do so if the invitation was given or reached out to. I responded to every inquiry that I've gotten about this in a respectful manner because that's how I choose to present myself. But again, I'm not opposed to what Sharon is saying at all. And again, I don't think it's a bad idea to have some type of weekly pickup. I think it's a good thing because that's being a responsible neighbor, because why should my negative way of life negatively or be to the detriment of my neighbor? I don't agree with that. And that's part of what ordinances are for, to help us mitigate those things. But again, no decision has been made. Nobody's shoving anything down anyone's throat. It's been a conversation, at least that's how I've tried to view it myself. So if that's the consensus at some point of the council, just to say, you know what, let's just take a pause maybe and we'll look at a different angle. I'm good with that too. I've always been good with that. But again, it's very easy to group in us as the city or government that we're some type of unreasonable entity and that nothing could be further from the truth. I think that if any of you would sit down with us and have a cup of coffee, and I would be I'd buy your cup of coffee and have a conversation with me personally, I think you'd see that I'm very willing to listen to what you have to say. I have no problem with that. And that includes our local businesses or anyone else that thinks that they can't talk to us. I disagree with that. I'm always willing to have a conversation. That's my thing. So again, regardless of what happens moving forward, I'm just gonna call for civility again. Treat each other with dignity and respect, even those people that you disagree with. Because we are at a very extreme loss of that in this world today. And I cannot stress that enough. So that's all I have to say. And again, I do not disagree with that, Sharon, at all, as with anything else. So.
Adam, anything you want to say?
Whatever I'm gonna say is probably gonna get twisted and put online, so I'm just gonna be quiet at this point in time. Enough has been said
Said what I
online
have to
about
say, I don't care.
businesses, families. I'm not gonna say much, so.
I will say the way we have to approach decisions about everything that go before us has to be from a neutral standpoint without emotion. And it gets to be very difficult when we're being threatened and when people's livelihoods are being threatened and people are being physically threatened. It is not okay. This is not okay, and it's an embarrassment to the community. So I will just leave it at that. But I'm saying that the way that you get to a decision is you hear all the information from both sides, and then you have to remove all of your own assumptions. So many people don't even know what their assumptions are. You're assuming that all of these people around this table feel the same way that someone says that we're saying. That's not true. Assumptions get everybody in trouble. So we have to gather all the information. We have to mull it over. Then we have to formulate our own opinion based on what we're taking in from our constituents. Some of us have the entire community. Some of us have portions of the community. Some of us have people that are very, very vocal about one way or the other. I think it's very discouraging and disappointing that those that are, maybe they're not in favor of it, but they think that it's a solution to the end problem, or those that are in support of it, or those that are in support of us, don't come forward in a vocal manner, because it is basically the court of the public opinion absolutely is correct. This is not wanted by the community. So unless they step forward, that's what we're seeing. And I'm going to leave it at that. But I think that people need to understand when we make decisions, it should not be based on emotion. It should be based on all the information that we're gathering and trying to get to the end goal that we're trying to get to. And that's what I will say. And also, I am an economic developer. I have spent 25 years trying to grow small businesses. I would never want a small business to go out, and I've never understood why we didn't have a contract with our local hauler right here in town. Why did we not have a contract with them in the beginning? It should have been the whole town. So that's all I have to say about that. I have never wanted them to go out of business, and it really irritates me that people think that I would be that way. As an economic developer for 25 years, that has been my life. Anything that you would like to say, Brian?
Ma'am.
Okay. Number 11, presentation on the annual Historic Preservation Commission report. Cease. And we have lots of items on the agenda.
If y'all are just here for trash, we're just back to regular
Well, I was just gonna say, it would be nice if people would actually say and see all the other things that we are doing besides just trash. Because we have accomplished a lot of things in the past 3 years. Thanks, Cece.
Good evening.
Go ahead. Please be quiet as you're leaving so that we can hear.
I am.
Just give them a minute to leave, because otherwise you can't hear.
Okay.
Just hold on for a minute.
Just wait a minute.
Okay.
2-minute recess.
No, I'm not taking recess. I can go outside at 2:00. Yeah. Here you go. Thank you.
Okay. I'm Cease Locke, and I'm here tonight to represent the Historic Preservation Commission.
I'll call you back.
Sorry, Cease.
And what I'd like to cover this evening is our annual report, which is a requirement for CLG communities. You've been given a copy in your packet, and I apologize, it's not a great copy. We have to apply on Slide Room through the state office, and this is the best that I could get printed out for you. Anyway, what the annual report does is state what we accomplished in 2024, the historic preservation. But I want to clarify, they also want to know what the community is doing in terms of historic preservation in 2024. I'm going to start talking about the historic preservation and the things that we've worked on. Red Oak is a CLG community, stands for Certified Local Government. And this means the city is certified to nominate properties for state historic preservation or on the National Register or apply for CLG grants. In order to maintain this CLG certification, we need to do some things. One of them, we need to, the Historic Preservation Commission needs to meet at least 3 times a year. We actually met 7 times in 2024. We need to attend state-approved training. And I was able to attend the 2024 Preserve Iowa Summit at Mount Pleasant in June. And the other requirement is the annual report, which is due February 28th of this month. Some of the things the Historic Preservation has done include the following. We honored the Grand Theater in November with our Accolades Award. And this is to recognize them for the great service they're providing to the community in offering low-cost movies and great entertainment. They're also being good stewards of the historic buildings at 408 and 410 Coolbaugh. We've done some research on Bluegrass Road, which is on the east end of town. And we put together a proposal to possibly purchase signs to recognize that stretch of road, which is historic. And we are planning to research possible grant opportunities in 2025 to pay for that cost. We've also looked at ways to recognize W.W. Merritt, looked at what other cities do. Some cities have the garden flag by the gravesite. We were looking more at possibly ordering a metal plaque to honor at the gravesite in Evergreen Cemetery. He was involved in the Underground Railroad. And again, we're going to probably look at grant opportunities to pay for that cost. One of our members is started working on a historic preservation Facebook page, and this is a way to inform the public about what we're doing. We're working on ways to partner with other organizations so that they can help in some of the projects we're working on, and we can help with some of their projects. In addition, the historic preservation assisted the city this year when the Iowa Downtown Resource Center team came in November. They put together a great plan to support the community in the downtown revitalization. I've attached a copy of that to the annual report, so that will go to the state preservation office as well. With the assistance of Steve Adams, we completed a 2025 CLG grant application to do an intensive survey of the neighborhood historically referred to as East Hill. We want to create a historic district in that neighborhood. Lorinda Bradley and Allison Archambault from the state office came to our July meeting and asked us to narrow down the survey area from what we had applied for the previous year. And so we did a windshield and walking survey of the area, and we have it narrowed down to 103 properties for our grant application, and the state was satisfied. Moving on, another question that the report was asked to identify the public education programs regarding historic preservation happening in Red Oak. And this is community-wide, so some of these are not necessarily things the historic preservation has done, but what other groups have done. The Questers sponsor a cemetery walk each year during Junction Days. It's a very interesting way to learn about the history of the town, listening to the stories of the people who actually lived here. The actors dress up in period clothing, and I was honored to participate this year dressing up as Helen Dearborn and talking about Captain T.H. Dearborn, who was a coal and ice merchant in Red Oak from 1869 to 1916 when he died. Another great example of public education is the new mural on Pulbach. The Red Oak Arts Destination Group brought a couple of mural artists to town, Edward Manhart and Sharon Manhart, and they painted the design done by Jim Hoskinson. It's a really interesting way to depict the history of the railroad and the Thomas Murphy Calendar Company. We also have a Heritage Hill walking tour, and that's sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce, which highlights many of the beautiful historic homes and buildings in Red Oak. There's brochures online as well as chamber office and at the Red Coach Inn. It's informative that you find out when the house was built or building was built, the style, and the owners. We have a wonderful depot that's been restored, offering World War II museum that's free and open to the public from March until the second week in December. This year, they sponsored a history talk with Bryce Douglas in March, and he discussed the research he's done on the graffiti that's been left by hobos and tramps since the Civil War on railroad stations, structures, and bridges. So that was very interesting. The library has numerous preservation resource books. They have framed copies of the Thomas Murphy calendars on display there throughout the year. And the Questers offer a rotating display on the first level in the library of antique items, etc. The Montgomery County History Center has lots of historic reference materials such as old Montgomery County directories and newspapers. This past June, they hosted a program on the Villisca Axe murders during Junction Days. And the History Center is also open Tuesday through Saturday, and the admission is free. So I tried highlighting things that were important, that were accomplished this year, not only by the community, but by the Historic Preservation Commission. And as I said, I attached copies of the Iowa Economic Development final report to our annual report. I also attached a link to the 2025 City of Red Oak Comprehensive Plan, as that does include some historic preservation items.
Yes.
Moving on to the work plan, if you've taken a look at that. The work plan is part of our annual report that's sent to the State Preservation Office. And what is included are the requirements that we need to meet as a CLG community, and that is the meeting times, the training that's required, and our plans to look at signage for Bluegrass Road and for the W.W. Merritt grave site. Item number 12 is, if awarded the 2025 CLG grant, that we would do the following activities, and under that are a number of bullet points of things that we need to do to meet those requirements. And we were given the grant, so we're going to be very busy.
I'm going to pass that letter out for the grant that we did get. So I didn't give that to those people. At least I think you have it. So this is for them.
So yes. it's
Excellent. We
good
finally got it.
news,
Yep.
And we're very excited, but it will be a very busy.
Yes, it will. And I think we owe you a computer to be able to do that, right? As we're thinking about things, I meant to mention that to Lisa, so, yeah. We are contributing $5,000 towards that as cash and a little over 13,000 in kind and volunteer stuff, so.
I'd
And
just like
office
to-
space and all that.
I'd just like to say that I've worked with CC in many things, but I think she's put a lot of
Yes, she
hours
has.
into the historical preservation committee, as I was on that one time. It's a lot of work. It is, and you've done a great job. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
It is
Nice to hear
fantastic.
that.
You do a great job.
Thank
And
you,
we
Stacey.
really appreciate all the work that you do.
I'm just happy we got the grant. And, I think it's part of our identity as a community is our history. So
Absolutely.
we want to preserve that.
Thank you.
Good deal.
Thank you for your
Thanks, Stacey.
time.
Yeah.
I know we have the grant in the later part, but I don't know that we need to
Does the
do that.
council wanna move up agenda item number 16?
16?
Ceases here.
Oh, okay.
I don't think you knew that, but I did feel more comfortable having the council agree before the mayor signed it.
Oh,
Because
okay.
even though so if you recall, the council authorized the submittal of the grant, but now that we're committing the funds, I think it's appropriate that the council does a resolution authorizing the mayor to go ahead and sign it, which is then committing the funds.
All,
So are we good with skipping down to 16, everybody?
I don't have an issue with that.
Then cease
Okay.
meeting.
So number 16 is resolution 2025-16, approval of the SHPO, stands for State Historic Preservation Office.
I can't hear a word you're saying. I'm sorry.
I said resolution 2025-16 is the approval of the State Historic Preservation Office, which is SHPO. The CLG grant 2025 agreement with the Iowa Economic Development Authority.
So it's committing 5,000 cash
Cash
and
Nice.
other is in
for
kind,
time,
so
computer.
things like some of my time, whatever cease needs or various things like that.
Yep.
So the mayor, it's time for the mayor to sign that.
I will move to approve.
Thank you, Bradley.
I'll second.
Right off. Discussion. Roll call. Bradley,
Yeah.
Bill,
Yes.
right off,
Yes.
Isaac,
Yes.
Hebrink.
Yes.
So mayor, so I already signed it and then it forwarded to the mayor, so I just asked her to
I'll
pause,
just,
so.
I'll just go ahead
She'll
and
go in and do the
electronically sign it.
electronic signature,
And-
and then you'll submit everything for the
Yeah.
24.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah.
very
Thanks,
much.
Steve.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Take
Susan.
care. Cease. Appreciate being here. Number 12, resolution 2025-12. This is the purchase of a sewer camera from the city of Oskaloosa for $41,500. We've talked about this before. This is a really good way to do more proactive identification of areas that need to be replaced.
Yes, and Clint gave the presentation at the last
Yes.
meeting.
Yes.
And I think, I don't know if the rest of you talked to Clint, but he gave me a pretty good review of what the camera does, and I thought that was very
It's great.
interesting. And I think we're lucky to find something even on the secondhand,
Mhm.
you know, because those are really expensive
Mm-hmm.
to buy new and even secondhand anymore, so.
Yep.
It's a very good price.
This is the camera, the trailer, the generator,
Okay,
everything.
it comes with the trailer. I thought it was in a van for some reason.
No, it's in the trailer.
It's in a trailer,
It's in a
okay.
trailer.
For some reason I had to. It was a bit, or we talked about when those.
And it's really well equipped.
Yeah.
Equipped, if you can see from the pictures.
And we have a staff person that this is what he did in Denver.
Yeah.
So he'll know how to
And
do
they
it.
did all the fixing of it too, like it's all.
Yep.
Been
Well,
refurbished, yeah,
Yep.
it's been taken care
Exactly.
of.
Just the hours that it's gonna save,
Absolutely.
just on location and everything like that, it's gonna be.
This
save
is
us
something
money.
we've been waiting for, I
It
think.
is,
Yeah.
definitely. This is a great deal. So I just need a motion and a
Yeah, I
second.
will move to approve that.
Right off
Second.
and Heidsieck. Any other discussion? Roll call. Bell,
Yes.
right off,
Yes.
Heidsieck,
Yes.
Hebrink,
Yes.
Bradley. Number 13 is resolution 2025-13. This is interest income distribution policy. And basically, it's all spelled out in Lisa's memo. That, again, I just want to point out that by her creating the sweep account has now increased our interest $20,000 a month that we're collecting. And what this policy is basically saying is how are we going to designate that? Do you want to explain that? It's been really silly how it's been done in the past. And I think this will make so much more sense and so much less time. So it was a huge time consuming where we were giving 57 cents to this account and it was ridiculous.
So basically, we have about $11 million in the bank right now. We have about 6 point something is in First Interstate, which is our main banking account. We have a checking account. That's where all the money was. That was when I first got here, it was only earning 1/4% interest. So the council approved the money markets, then we went up to 4, it's now come down to 3.5. But that interest is then in the sweep account. And so what was happening in the past was that they would take all the little funds. So if there was $10,000 in seized money for the police department, if there was $18,000 in the fire sinking account, they would take the $6 million in the bank. They would divide up the percent of what every small fund has in it. So you could literally be at 0.5% of the total, 1% of the total, 10%, all those different funds. And then they would have to enter about 25 to 30 interest payments into different funds. So each one of those is a various entry. And again, as the mayor said, there were literally some that are like 50 cents, $1, things like that. And so what most communities, many communities will do, it's a policy decision. Thus, the reason I'm bringing it to you is that they can say that instead of distributing it amongst all the different sub accounts that they call it, or the sub general fund accounts. So they are not 001, but they are something in the O something. That all that money would then go into the general fund. We're still spending it on city purposes, but it has a lot less entries in the system. If there are CDs, which are what we call Bank 2 and Bank 3, that's Houghton Bank and Bank Iowa. If we have CDs, those obviously the interest that's accrued to those CDs stays with those CDs. So for the invested funds, it would stay with it, but everything in our checking account and money market would go to benefit the general fund, which if you remember when you did your Standard & Poor's bond rating before I came,
Yes.
one of the major deficiencies that you have is in the way that you have funded your general fund, and it's super low.
Yes.
So I think it's appropriate. It's for lots of different reasons that we're helping to bring funds back to the general fund. In addition to creating a lot less work. If you look in the resolution, I indicated that I would like this to be retroactive to September of last year because that's the month that we're reconciling right now. And so instead of doing all 50, you're gonna have about 25 CDs that you still have to enter interest on. Some of those accrue interest monthly, quarterly, and annually. And so we would be going down to a lot less entries, which will try to help us get caught up in the banking bank rec that both Sue and Ashley are working on. And then I think, again, it's a positive for the general fund. So the resolution is written out that anything that's in First Interstate Bank or IPATE, which is that state fund, we have about $65,000 in there, that all of that interest would go to the general fund and then the rest would go to whatever CDs are assigned in the other two banks.
So basically it gets distributed throughout departments anyhow, so it wouldn't matter.
Most everything's
Yeah.
funded out of the general fund, most, I mean, so yeah.
Not water
And,
and sewer.
and not water
So
and
the
sewer, but
average balance, 11 million? What is the average balance throughout?
The 6 million is in First Interstate, which is the fluid money of checking and savings. And then you have another 4+ million in CDs.
I think we try to keep our main account at no lower than 4 million. Because of how we have to pay bills. The
So that's
timelines.
utility money every, day, there's money going in there. If somebody buys airport fuel, it goes in the checking, like everything goes in to the checking account. And then it's swept into the sweep account every day. So we have $100,000 that stays in the checking account, whether you're sweeping in or out. So if there's a big deposit made, it would be swept out to go into the money market. If we just approved checks and a large sum of money came out, the bank you don't actually bounce checks. Even if we wrote 300,000 and at the end of the day, it has 100,000, they always sweep enough back and forth. And so
Okay.
it's basically just a
Well,
moving
I
and
think
we
it's-
pay a small
I think
amount of
it's
fees.
great what you've done just to,
Oh,
start the sweep account because that's huge, 20,000
$20,000 a
for
month.
that.
It's actually about 18 net per month, but I mean, you're talking a couple hundred a year.
You're talking-
A couple hundred a year is
That's a lot.
huge. Yeah,
Look
it's a
how
lot
much
of dough.
it could have been.
Yep, thank you, Lisa.
And all this
Yeah, I
time. Thank you,
appreciate
Lisa.
that, yeah.
So this is just, again, I think it's a bookkeeping positive change. It's a positive for the general fund, which is the one that you were called out for by the bond raters. And so I think I don't really see a downside to it.
Yes, it's plus. All right, so I take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Bills?
Second.
I was waiting for Adam.
Just trying to give a chance.
Right off. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Right off,
Yes.
Isaac,
Yes.
Capron,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Okay, number 14 is resolution 2025-14 for the SEI City Hall interior door locks. This is not locks like are on your door. This is actually providing a locking system that expands the current system that we have. And so it is something that where we have the fobs and we have them in multiple buildings. So do you want to explain that any further? We did
So
have.
right now, we have two locking systems. I don't understand why. This is sort of that, like maybe somebody saved money at some point, but right now we have no fob on the exterior front door, the metal door that people walk in first. Our current policy is that we have that small lobby locked off. And so when you come in there, you're standing in a very small space that if once two people get in there, it's super uncomfortable. Because we have the glass wall with a tiny circle in it to communicate. If you're talking about a delinquent bill that you have to admit in front of other people in a very confined space that you're delinquent, how much you're delinquent, Donna has to speak loud and you have to speak loud just to be able to communicate through that small hole. And it seems somewhat disrespectful, in my opinion, that this is how we manage waiting on customers. And so the current system has been that we have a locked door at that point. And then we, if Donna's busy with someone and somebody's waiting, nobody can see in the rest of the building who's waiting there. And we're never encouraging with that door being closed that someone needs to come into the bigger lobby. So as you know, we're trying to open that up. In my opinion, we should have that small door open and no longer have an automatic lock, which that does have right now. And it's a completely separate system. So we have like some random employees that can get in that door with a fob. Most of us cannot. So this proposal is not to put an automated locking system on the exterior door. We would still all, if we're coming in the exterior as employees, we all enter from the rear. And there's a key swipe with a fob that we can all get in. All department heads are able to come in that way. However, the employees that are not department heads all come in the front doors. And so if Donna's waiting on somebody, they have to wait, they have to get buzzed in that first door. So we want to eliminate that. And then as people enter into that big lobby, so that also we've for a number of years been paying for a credit card machine at Karen's workstation that has not worked. I don't know why it never got fixed, but it never got fixed. So we got it fixed now. So Karen can actually wait on anybody, whether they pay cash, check, or a card. So as anybody standing at the first counter being, if Donna's busy with somebody, they can all come into Karen. So I feel like faster service, a safer environment for people that don't have to have people on top of them. But what I'm not comfortable with, and it's not because we're afraid, I saw comments online that if we're afraid that people can come into City Hall, that we should leave town because we're afraid. I'm not afraid of people. And I'm not afraid of welcoming people into our building. But I do think there's an element of the fact that we have cash drawers, that we have confidential information, and that if Donna was busy and Karen was at lunch and no one else can see the front counter, that the two doors that we're talking about, which are the interior to that larger lobby, are right now just, you can walk right in. And we lose each other. Like I can say, where's Ashley? And I have to walk around the full square to find each other. Like it's not simple to do that. So this proposal is to go with the exterior rear entrance company, which is SEI. So we'd be using the same fobs. So they have to bring electricity to those two locations. It's included in the quote. So there's a strike pad, just like so that you can do that. And then the same key fob that lets you into the exterior rear door would let employees who have that fob walk through those two doors. Otherwise it would be locked. The other thing that it includes is that if someone from the public is being let in, it seems super inefficient to have employees have to stand up and go to those doors. And so usually when you see locked doors in City Hall or welcome areas, you have a system that would be at Donna and Karen's two desks that if they say, oh, Adam's here to visit somebody, they would just buzz one of the doors to let you in. And so it's not cheap, but I also think that as we've talked about it as a staff, like this building is not open unless we have a council meeting here. We say that to the fire department. We say that to the police department. You can't just walk into the back offices of the police department because it's a public building. And it seems like it's an appropriate way to handle balancing bringing in a more welcoming space and being more open to the spaces that the public can be in. But I think it's also appropriate to consider having funds spent to lock those 2 interior doors. So
And
that's what the proposal is.
And a point I think worth noting is that we spend money on protective gear, protective equipment for almost all of our other staff. This is our protective gear for our city staff, because she's right. Sometimes there's times when everybody's gone, but one of the gals there and maybe Lisa's left for a meeting, and then they're left all alone. And so I think it's a really city government buildings are secured.
Y'all
So
may not be concerned for your safety, but I am concerned for your safety there as well, especially in today's environment.
Plus,
I think it's
you
important.
have the 2 people there, two different windows to go to. That's gonna help people, because they do come in and they were in a hurry and you're
Sometimes
right.
want to leave something.
Privacy is important anymore, and I think we need to pay attention more to that, because there are some instances where people have problems paying their bill, and we have to know why. You know, maybe we can figure it out. So I think that's a good idea. And I agree, those doors should be locked, going back to your offices.
Yeah.
And they will be, they will be buzzed in to the back and.
buzzed in, or if we have fobs, the fob will
Okay.
work.
All right.
Fob will let you in if you're an employee. If you're the public who, someone says they want to meet with me and Karen comes in and says, hey, can somebody come in? And then I'm like, yep, let them in. They get to buzz each of the 2 doors.
Okay,
So that was the extra.
that makes sense.
If you look at the quote on page 57, I guess it is. So getting the power to the 2 locations is the 900, it's 2,800 a door. And then the 1,200 is the amount to have the fobs. You can either plant those at the desk or they can just be handheld.
Is this the only company we looked at?
Well, the problem is if we look at another company, then we have to have a second fob. So you sort of have created the system where like they already are the fob that we have on the rear, so no.
So not having a
Or
phone.
replace the whole system that we currently
Right.
have.
Then we'd have to add another door to replace that one.
Probably
and
more.
Having all these fobs.
Do they do maintenance too, if something goes wrong? Okay, so it would be the same company that we're currently using.
Right, and like the things that we can do internal, like Ashley has the key fob system, so. Each person has a unique fob. We set the times of when people can come in and out. So, for example, it used to be that all the office staff was turned off right at 4:30. So if anybody in the past like forgot their purse or forgot their phone and came back an hour later, they were locked out. So we have made it more lenient for the employees that work in City Hall or like all the department heads. But again, like you can see who enters. We don't have an exit system for our fob, but you can see if anything ever happened, like I don't know where the worry came from, but if Ashley logs onto the system, she can see who entered, whose fob key swabs where.
That was gonna be my question, so you can't tell who.
Yep.
We can tell who comes in at what location.
Yep. And then we have the cameras on the outside that also would show when people are leaving. So we would be able to know both ways.
Right.
That
I just got I didn't have access to it before, but I was able to log on. If you remember, we decided to remove the cameras on the interior hallways of the building. But we have one that points to the parking lot in the rear, one that points to the rear door. And there's one in the internal lobby, like just in the small lobby of Donna's. There's one that looks over the conference table. And then there's one on the outside of the front door. There's no sound to any of those. The sound is turned off. Like I just checked it out this weekend. So you can see if we ever had an issue, and we retain that data for 10 days.
So I take a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Bradley,
Second.
Bills. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I feel like I got a runaround here. I have not heard anything about this until this paper come out. Why wasn't I informed of this earlier?
I don't think anybody was.
And nobody was.
Why
I
weren't we?
mean, we've talked about it over the last couple of years, but
I think it's important for the safety of our
It is.
employees. For one thing, in this day and age, that we have to protect ourselves.
Yep.
Myself included, when I come into a meeting, I think it's important that you feel secure. And, it's just the way of the world now. I mean,
We got cash in there.
we have cash, we have, you know, it's just an overall thing that people do now for security for their buildings, and we are a public building, we have to remember that.
Exactly. Okay. Roll call.
Isaac,
No,
Hebring,
No.
Bradley,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
right off.
Yes.
Okay. Number 15, resolution 2025-15. This is the fire department and the EMS fees. As she pointed out, it's been 13 years since we've increased these fees.
How long?
13 years. Yeah.
I can imagine how much more we're spending on EMS services in the last
Wow.
13 years. I'm
Yeah.
not sure how we waited that long.
Yeah.
And they're not substantial increases, as
They're
you can
not,
see in most categories, I think in all categories, it's $50. The specialty care one is actually decreased.
Mhm.
Another
fees
notable
we
one is that
collect.
right now, sorry, what?
These are fees we collect for sending our services out to people.
I'm surprised this is all he recommends for increases.
This
Because
is
we
the
haven't
billing.
increased them in 13
This is
years.
the billing, yeah.
Yeah, it was the billing company that recommended it.
I see,
Mhm.
I see.
And this would go into effect immediately, by the way.
And then on page 72 is the fire department fees. So that's more for fire services. That's not suggesting that we actually bill for like a structure fire. But they've talked about some examples in the past where you had like a massive train derailment. And because we didn't have fees on the books the railroad was calling us anticipating a bill.
Mhm.
And we didn't have fees on the books, and so we weren't able to charge. So it's, as the chief indicated to me, there's lots of occasions where we're never gonna bill it, but to have the tools to be able to bill it when it's appropriate makes sense. And so again, these are not just every time there's a fire that we're gonna bill something, but it would be on certain occasion. So the chief and I, at the recommendation with the amounts from the billing company on the PCC amount, would be to recommend these fees effective immediately.
I move to approve that.
Right off.
I would say they're very, very reasonable. Once they've gone up, oh my God. So, one second.
And Heat Brink, any other further discussion? Roll call.
Hebring,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
right off.
Yes.
Isaac,
yes,
Number 17, because we did 16 already, is fiscal year 2025 year-end discussion and fiscal year 2026 budget discussion. I know that Lisa's been trying to she's been going through everything and putting numbers in that is really, really helpful. You guys are going to be impressed with how she presents this information and what she's learned and have been able to track. So it's very good. I don't know that you're ready to really give a whole report today, are you?
I think you wanted to pass on
Pass on
that.
it.
So
Yeah.
remember that we agreed to have a special meeting next Monday.
Yes.
So we'll have, we talked about that 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So that we'd have a night just for the budget.
Just for the budget.
So we'll get some spreadsheets out to you, just, kind of some things that we want to focus on, I think. More than the individual line items at the first meeting, I'll really just be helping you understand kind of where money is coming from, where it goes to. There's definitely been some things over the last couple of years that, again, we'll sort of have a policy discussion about. I don't know how these things sort of morphed into maybe people just not understanding how it worked. But as an example, there were some water and sewer debts that somehow didn't get budgeted for them to help contribute to that. And so the debt service fund was paying for some of their debt. So that'll be some of the kinds of things that we talk about where I think they still need to pay their debt. They'll be able to contribute towards the debt fund. Also, in most communities, and that same note, that we don't accumulate funds in a debt fund. You're usually just providing the debt fund with enough money to make their debt payment. It's debt payment every year. And then you determine the regular sources of where that is. So it might be tax dollars. In the case here, you often used 50% of the lost sales tax money. Lost, for those that don't know, it's not really lost money. It's
Local option
sales tax. Spells out lost.
Exactly. Yep.
And so we'll talk about things like that we will, there's definitely some imbalances in the budget. And I think that we probably need to give ourselves reprieve in the first year to be able to take some of the fund balances that we have in other areas will really be where my proposal comes. Instead of trying to make any massive changes. Just because we're all very new and new, even in your case, to be able to understand. I think the documents that you've given in the past are super generic.
Yeah.
Very broad-based numbers, and we're gonna give you a 20-page document that shows you every line item and want to help each of you understand, you know, how we fund the city and what the various sources of revenue are and where that money gets spent. So we'll focus on that the first night and kind of trying to show you where some things happened this year in fiscal 25 and then where I see us going in fiscal 26. Our main goal that we have to accomplish before March 5th, so that you understand the first deadline in the statutory process, is that we have to just put a notice in with the maximum amount that we're going to levy. So you'll remember the general levy has a limit on us by the state. Our liability, which is our liability insurance, we have the right to levy the amount that it costs us, which you've been doing. The other larger levy for us is employee benefits, FICA, IPERS, things like that. Again, you have the ability to limit what your actual costs are. It looks like we have not budgeted enough for that in the past. And so the other thing that we'll have to look at is not only trying to cover fiscal 26, but trying to put some reasonable amount of money back into that fund, and you have the right to levy for that. So we'll try to keep it more even to what it is. Yes.
So how long has that been deficient? How long has that fund been deficient?
I think it just started being deficient maybe in fiscal 24.
So last year's budget.
So we'll look at that. Again, it's, you know, our goal would be to try and keep it about what it was this year if we can. If you remember that we talked about a large decrease in our health insurance premiums. And so what we'll hopefully be able to do is capitalize on the decrease in premiums to be able to take that money and be able to fill in some of the deficiencies without going up a lot to help that. So we'll look at that. So we have the general levy, the insurance liability insurance, the two levies for benefits, and then we'll have debt. And we'll again try, I'm working with Chip, if you remember Chip from Northland Securities, he and I are working on those numbers together. And so our goal is to keep that levy equal as well. And then what you'll see, like I said, is that you have some funds in there to capitalize on. We'll encourage, I think my proposal will be that water and sewer will continue to pay back what they have not paid back in the last 2 years. Because again, I think someone didn't recognize that that was supposed to happen.
Yep.
And then what we'll be looking at is that instead of the sales tax money going to debt, it'll be helping to fund the general fund, as will the franchise fees that you implemented last year. And so hopefully between interest, franchise fees, and the sales tax money going into the general fund instead of debt, I'm hoping that we can fill some gaps. The other fund that has a lot of money in it compared to like the general fund is the sales tax money that we allocate for public safety. You'll recall that 40% of the public safety, or 40% of the sales tax money goes to public safety. In the past, we have used that strictly for equipment and training. We have not used it for operations. And as the state has limited our ability to levy taxes in that general fund, the cost of services, just like why we brought these fees to you for right away for police or for fire and ambulance, the cost is going up more than your ability to pay for them. And so we have a $1.3 million balance in public safety sales tax money. So again, when you look at how we've funded the general fund down to nothing, and we have a large pot of money, $2 million of the general fund is for public safety. And so both of the chiefs know that I will be proposing. That doesn't mean we're not going to spend money on equipment and training, but we at least for this year to kind of help us have a year under our belt as staff and as, you know, council, that we look at some of that to again help go into the general fund, because we're not generating enough money to pay for the general fund purposes. So looking at that, looking kind of at how we allocate wages, various things like that. And so we, another thing that we collect the funds for the stormwater on everybody's utility bill. That fund balance has accumulated to the point that according to the staff in the past, they were not allowed to spend anything in there because we were saving it for the levy. So as you know, one of our priorities at the strategic planning session was to bring the engineers in. So the good news for that will be that we'll be able to use those funds without trying to find it in the general fund to be able to fund if we bring JEO back and really try to focus in on what we can do with the levy. But one of my proposals will be if we put a little bit more pressure, say on road use, they may help pay for a little bit more of city hall staff, for example, a small amount. So let's say we transferred $30,000 of things from the general fund over to road use for salaries. I think then there's also an appropriate way to say that I reviewed the stormwater ordinance and it doesn't just say when you adopted that charge on the utility bills that you can only use it for the levy. And so one of the things that Chris and I talked about was, let's say where we could allocate some more wages to the road use money, but what we could do is supplement in return that they have like a sweeper payment, for example, and street sweepers are directly related to keeping your storm system clear of debris. And so we could say that if there's more pressure put on road use for salaries, then in return, we could use $37,000 of the stormwater money and then replenish that for the sweeper payment. So we obviously want to be very cognizant of only using monies that are intended for certain purposes, but we've sort of morphed, I think, away from, for example, the debt money that we give for sales tax. The referendum for sales tax said relief of property taxes. It did not say for debt. And so clearly the general fund is based on property taxes, and so you can utilize those. So those are the kinds of things that we'll be looking at as we talk next Monday. That's all I have for that.
The public has no idea how complicated city budgets are and how many different accounts there are and what you can and can't move money from. It's extremely complicated, and I think Lisa's 30 years of experience have more than paid for themselves already for us in the last few months. So I appreciate the update. I think that was helpful. Just having those numbers was really.
Yeah, it just occurred to me that the money that you're making for us with our funds more than pays your salary.
Times two.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great, wonderful.
Now you're gonna give
Deal.
her an idea.
Pardon me?
Now you'll give her an idea for a raise.
No, that
Actually,
wasn't a suggestion.
actually, that is something that we do need to talk about. As we're budgeting wages and you've also been doing the union negotiations for both police and fire. And where are you with that? If you want to
We've
get
had 2 meetings with fire and 1 with police, and we'll have some more meetings next week.
How much do your lost funds fluctuate?
Not too much. Remember that when you adopted the franchise fees, which it was not well, I think, understood in the office. So you were collecting 1%, like all of sales tax is 1%, right? On everything that we paid for. And so one of the things that you paid the 1% on before the franchise fees was also electric and gas bills. So what it meant when you lost your 1% sales tax was that, remember that, I'm gonna round off a number, they said maybe a little bit more, but remember the number that was estimated from Mid-American was $400,000 if you implemented as you did 5%. So every percent of 5 divided by 400 would be worth $80,000, right? Because the 80 times 5 would get you to 400. So what it meant is that you can't charge sales tax on a utility bill for 1%, and then on top of it, add another 5% for the franchise. So they say this 1% on the utility bills goes away, and then you get the 5%. So it's a net of 4%. So in that case of estimating at 400,000, and if you're gonna lose 1% sales tax, you would lose $80,000 and you would gain 400 for a net gain of 320 in my math. They had a slightly different number. And so when they estimated the loss of sales tax, I don't think that the staff, when they budgeted, understood that. And so they sort of started receiving the first 2 franchise payments, and they were dividing it super weird, like we have to redo that. And so in that case, if those numbers are correct, we would have seen a decrease in the loss number of $80,000. But for the most part, it's been steady or slight increases. The same with road use. If you remember, road use is a per capita amount. So right now we're getting $139.50 for every person in our community, which ends up to be around $800,000 for road use. The league has encouraged us to estimate it at $140.50, so $1 more. So when you look at that, assuming all the numbers that come into the state are the same, we get about $5,000 more. $5,500 more.
And that money
Not
can
much.
only be used on street projects.
Right.
So that's the majority of
Street
the street
expenses, not just
street
projects.
expenses, yeah.
So you pay for your entire street department. Like again, communities look at things differently. So sometimes you see the general fund paying for streets and road use. You bear the burden of the street department all on road use expenses minus the liability insurance is the only item that we put in the general.
Does that include curbs?
Anything to do that would be under
Yeah,
Chris's.
we
So
have a
it'd be-
lot of curbs that. need
So
fixing
I
there,
think
so.
that's something that we've figured
Right.
out recently too.
Right, and that's another, one of the funds that has a little bit more than some of the others, and so.
Do sidewalks go in there too?
Anything, I mean, you can put them wherever you want, but
Transportation,
it's, yeah, it can be stormwater, streets, curbs, any of that stuff. You just
So for
not
instance,
steward.
speaking of sidewalk, I think that that's something we need to look into in some of these areas that are, the kids are walking on, you know, they don't have any place to walk to get, especially when you talk about
Like on
people
Eighth.
on 8th Street. I mean, we need to really look at that.
Well, and the legislature is doing some really weird things right now with sidewalks. So right now, the city has the liability of all of the sidewalks. However, the property owner is responsible to keep them up. And they're now trying to take away the city's ability to fine or charge fees for fixing sidewalks. So they're telling us that we have to hold property owners accountable, but they're giving us no tool to be able to do that. So that is one of those weird things before the legislature, but it does make us,
So the sidewalks are actually on the owner's property.
No,
No, they're in the city right
Okay,
of
they're
way.
the city right of way, so
They
why
should
should the
be.
property owner be responsible?
In 1962 or 3, the city of Red Oak put the responsibility back on the homeowners. They used to
Well,
be
how can that be
city
if it's on
sidewalks.
City right of way.
no different than we make you mow the lawn in our right of way. we
Same,
make you do
same
snow.
way they made us responsible for our sewer laterals.
I don't even like to walk at night because
they're
they're
dangerous.
people walking the street.
I don't want
So-
mine.
Sharon, it's the same thing with our water service laterals, our sewer laterals. All those used to be owned by the city as well. They were just put them back on the homeowners at some point in time. And it was like 62 or 3 when they
So
did the
is there any
sidewalks.
way that we could give credits to the homeowners if they repair their sidewalk?
I think that's a great idea. I don't know.
I mean,
Worth exploring.
I mean,
Some
we're
cities
talking about cleaning up the
encourage
city, fixing the
positive.
city.
Yeah.
Why can't we do something like that, you know?
Some of the other cities will do where the city pays for it up front and then assesses it back. And then the more that it costs, like you incrementally say, like if it's under $500, you pay it in the year. And then if it goes up more, you would give them numerous years to pay it. And then you do it as a special assessment. So you can say the city will pay for it up front. You have a payment plan. And then if you want, it'll just go on your tax bill.
A lot of communities own sidewalks though, still.
Yeah,
I mean,
but I mean, it would help, some of these
It really would.
homes look so much better if they fix their sidewalks.
Absolutely.
The problem in the world of not having enough money to already fix the things. that
you
we
know,
have
I,
already-
I,
Yeah,
I understand
exactly.
money is always the
I
issue,
know.
but what I'm saying is the communities that own, the cities own the sidewalk, they have better sidewalk conditions than we do, when we make the homeowners
I think
responsible
some
for
kind
it.
of a sidewalk program that the city would,
We can also
maybe
pay
get
part of it.
some kind of grants. for
So,
doing-
so some of the funding that's available through SWIPCO,
Uh-huh.
through our state but transportation funds that are available through SWIPCO, so we'd apply for them through SWIPCO. Those would be good, but we gotta have
I don't
planning.
think that they don't pay for regular in-town sidewalks.
Okay,
I
I
think
was
they're
thinking-
usually like.
But there's gotta be
connecting
some kind of
communities.
program that we can.
oh,
Well, that'd
okay,
be trail, more of a trails, wouldn't it?
got it.
Yeah. But
And
we
they don't
do
even like
have,
trails
Yeah.
we
inside
do have
town.
grants
Yeah,
from
that's right.
school to home, walkability to get kids
Yeah,
to
that's what
school.
I'm
Safe routes to school.
thinking.
Safe routes
There's
to
gotta be
school, yeah.
something out there. I think we should look into a city sidewalk program. My
Great
opinion.
There is some money out there for safe routes to school, but it's pretty hard to come by.
Mhm.
And SWIPCO and MAPPA did receive Safe Streets for All, and it will be available for us to apply for sidewalks or pedestrian crosswalks. So that will be available through SWIPCO. Do we have any department reports?
None of my package.
No, one was on today's agenda.
Okay, got it. And city administrator report.
So obviously, garbage and budget seems to be my two topics for the last 2 weeks. Remember, we're still gonna have this question and answer period. We have received some questions that we're gonna meet with Elaine in the morning to go over those and try to make sure that we have some answers for those people. And then I think it would be a good time for us to also explain, as you did tonight, that the council is interested in looking at the idea of a citywide quarterly cleanup that would be assessed on the utility bill at a much smaller amount than instead of a curbside program, perhaps for the next year, and continue to talk and look at different options. So we can talk about that tomorrow night. We started meeting with Civic Systems that the council approved for the software, so that we're looking at how our conversion would look and balancing those things out. Clint is signed up for the Chamber's leadership program. He's the one staff person that we decided to send this time, so you'll see the bill for that $50 on the next one. Fire Chief Bruce and I had advertised for the full-time position that was vacated back in December. And we had one applicant, which was James Gass, who is our part-time person right now. So we still had him, even though he was the single applicant, go through the interview process. He had already passed the physical exam when he became part-time. So the chief and I offered him that full-time position effective immediately, which was, I think, 2 weeks ago.
Excellent, excellent.
We also have another upcoming vacancy in the fire department as well. One of the staff members is moving from full-time to part-time to take another position. The chief and I feel like it's probably best right now, since we didn't have other applicants at the time, that we're gonna keep the position vacant for the next number of months and then re-advertise again. So instead of spending as much in the full-time budget, you may see as we look at the part-time dollars. So he's gonna try to encourage part-timers to fill those shifts instead of advertising again, and unlikely to find someone at least for a little bit until we get through the budget. So we'll still try to fill those shifts. The way that it works without people being on vacation, there's sometimes where you could have 4, but usually there's 3 people on a shift. So hopefully, based on the way the shifts go, we'll still be able to have all 3. But I said, you know, if you're spending less in the full-time and you spend a little bit more on part-time, which overall, you know, we can't do that long-term to keep this crews that we have, but since we didn't have any other applicants, we'd like to pause that for a little bit, and the chief and I discussed that. And then I just want to comment on the public comment lady that spoke about this resolution. I don't know, you know, she listened to my recording, which I was obviously speaking to you guys about it, and she doesn't understand that we still meant $100 per unit or $200 total. And so as you listen back, that is clearly what's in front of you. She was trying to talk to me when she was leaving, and I asked her to not interrupt, and I'll call her, but it clearly states in here when she says, like, you have to do what the motion says. Me speaking is not your motion, obviously. And so your motion was to approve it as presented, and it's clearly stated. So what she said to me when she was leaving was, you need to change this resolution and then get me a copy, which I'm not going to change it. If we need to discuss it again in 2 weeks to clarify it again, but it clearly states in here, you know, again, when you listen to what you're saying, I think everybody understood we meant $100, which is per unit, because everything that we do is per unit in those original resolutions. And so I will meet with her again. I'm not planning to change it. And then if she wants to come again, you know, we can talk about it. And if we have to vote on it again and say it again clearly, we can. She's the reason that I came back to you originally, because she tried to state that a duplex would not be 2 units. And so I'll see where that goes, but I at least wanted to comment that as she passed it out, you can clearly see that it's $100 per unit or $200 total. And then you'll recall that we said if you were doing it at separate times, that you would still have to pay the $145 a unit, because you're getting the discount.
I was asking on
For doing
clarification on that, and I was asking if you lived.
Yeah, and we
in
didn't
one
understand what
together.
your question was, remember,
Yeah.
and then it made more sense.
Yep.
Right.
Correct.
I remember it. when she
Right,
explained
it was the discount comes because you get to economies
Both
of
at the
scale,
same
deal
time.
with 2 at one time.
There,
So it wasn't, you know, I can hear what she thinks she heard, I understand, because I didn't
Right.
specifically again say, but what I will explain to her is that when you speak and make your motion, nobody asked to alter the resolution, and so what we're adopting, like, my words don't make the motion. You saying what you're adopting, so I'll try to explain that.
Yep.
And that's all I have.
Okay. As for me, most of what I've done this last week has been around legislative stuff that's happening at the state legislature. I'm always surprised by the fact that it feels like sometimes they have no idea what we do when they're trying to remove our ability to charge a fee for animal licensing, which is what helps to cover the cost of animal control. They just have a number of things that are on the table right now that are really silly. And it's taking away our ability. One of them is was presented by a Senator Webster, that is a former contractor, but also, or he is a contractor, but he was a former city council person. And he is proposing to limit building permits and permits for professional like HVAC, plumbers and such like that to no more than $500. What he doesn't understand is we have to pay SWPCO for every single inspection that they come over to pay. And if they limit it at 500, like the middle school was 50 different inspections, we would be paying then for people's projects to get inspected. So it's just, these are the things that are just not making any sense. And I'm grateful to be a part of the League of Cities Legislative Committee. And I'm learning a lot from those mayors and city council people that have been around a long time. And, you know, there's just things that are happening at the state level that people in our community are not aware of. And it very much influences the way the city will be able to operate in the future. I mentioned, you know, due to the House File 718, that they're seeing more and more contractors not taking on jobs, which is also hurting our housing industry. And so I know the Home Builders Association was up at the Capitol, I think maybe next week or this week. Brian Carlson is a part of that. So I was gonna get with him and find out what he found out from his group as far as that goes. So just a lot of legislative things. The Local Leaders Day is coming up March 4th. And Sharon, Tim, me, Lisa, I think if you're able to, depending on getting the levy to the county by the 5th, that will be really good. I have to go up before you guys. Otherwise I'd go with you. I have to stay overnight because I have a board meeting the next day, but dress professionally and it will be a great day. It will be great. You'll get to hear updates on some of these bills that we're in opposition of and or in favor of, and then we will go to the Capitol and we will have times with our senators. So it's a great day. I think that's all I pretty much have. I thought about this the other day, that every single one of you have been through the Municipal Leadership Academy. And I don't think prior to 3 years ago, our council members went through that training. And I do believe that you all found that very helpful. I appreciate that Lisa sent the handbook for all of us back out. And that handbook clearly defines and describes your roles and responsibilities and how to operate the city. So I just think that you need to refer to that as often as you can. And when you've got questions, it's the perfect resource tool to go to. So if you're questioning public comments, we are not required by state law to have public comments. However, we want public participation, and that's why we added it back. There's information about the civility on social media and how to respond to that. There's just a number of things that are really good in that handbook. So I would, if you have a chance, put it somewhere where you have to sit and need something to read. So, okay, that's all I have. City Council, Sharon.
Well, a couple of my meetings, of course, have been canceled because of the weather, but I have to say, I went to the website for the League of Cities. Spent a couple hours, and that is so interesting. There's so much on there that you can, all the research tools and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Couldn't believe what all it has, so I enjoyed that.
League of Cities is a huge resource that very few people use.
I know.
And I'm pretty honored to be on their board of directors.
And so
I just
whenever
have-
I have time, I try to go through it but it's very interesting. I think all the council members should go take a look at it. Very enlightening.
You should try to go to the League of Cities conference this year if you can.
Yeah.
Because again,
It's worthwhile.
it is just
It's
phenomenal.
in September, third week of September.
Yeah.
It is really good.
It is. Yeah.
Like different breakout sessions.
It's really, really good.
Otherwise, the cold weather's coming in some of the meetings.
Yeah. Okay, Brian?
I attended the last two sessions of the county supervisors meetings and also attended the Community Heart and Soul Expo on Saturday.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes, thank you.
Well, we would have been done with our MCDC strategic planning by now if the weather had been cooperative. So again, things have been canceled there, but hoping to wrap that up. We did a regular meeting there as well, and then I was at the Home Base Iowa Initiatives meeting as well, and then the Community Heart and Soul event, which I thought was a phenomenal thing. I don't know what the turnout was right offhand, but I think it was a good thing to get all of those different organizations together. I think only if not for them to know what each other does in the community. I walked through and stopped at every booth, and I just thought it was a great thing.
I think it'd be really great for newcomers to be able to come and see, learn about there were 31 different nonprofit organizations represented at the Fair Building last Saturday. We didn't have a lot of people there, but we had great booth participation. So that's the key, is now getting the word out. But if you're a newcomer coming, you would learn about all those different entities. I would think that would help connect you to some other things. I would love to talk to you about that. All right, good deal. Thank you. And the Home Base Iowa was also really good. We got really good information with Christopher Hughes on the call, and Mandy. Andy Hill. Yep, she did. They both created some really great information for how we can recruit and retain veterans in our community. John?
I joined this council. I was given the impression that we're supposed to work the council and the staff as a team. But I find too many times that I'm not asked about something, I'm not told about something until it hits that agenda packet. I feel like a lot of times they're trying to run things around me without me knowing about it until it hits that packet.
Okay. Do any of you feel that way? When the agenda comes to you, do you feel like it's new information for you, or?
No, because you can look it up on the website.
If I have questions, I call.
Yeah.
After I read the packet, and usually Lisa sends it out far enough ahead that I have time to review it.
And I do wish citizens would actually, when they click the agenda, if they'd go through the packet and see the memos that give so much information. I mean, Lisa, you spend it. I don't know how you do it, because I've had to put the packets together, and it is a very long, tedious thing. And you've added page numbers, which also is so helpful. So your memos are incredible, and they're very helpful, and I'll stop at that.
I'm just saying that if the staff is thinking about something, they don't ask my opinion, they don't even talk to me about it until it hits that packet. That's the first time I hear about it.
I think sometimes, some of the reason we have a city administrator is to do the work that we shouldn't be doing. And I think that's probably part of it, but maybe check in with her the first of the week and find out if she's working on or something. And I mean, do you have any other suggestions?
I mean, it's up to the council, but if.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, is how the agenda
There's
is put
sometimes where
together.
if I'm working on something, it's, I've come to you and said like, hey, do you want to do this before we draft an ordinance? But that's really staff's role, is to bring something to you. So I don't know if it means having 5 individual conversations, but we either have to talk about things here, like that's the nature of open government, that we're not really supposed to be all talking about it behind the scenes. Staff can do those things, but that's usually why we bring it to you, so that you're talking about it in an open forum.
Yeah.
Because we're not under the open meetings laws, whereas all of you are. And so we can do it however the council wants, but.
And we all have the opportunity to add to the agenda if
The agenda is the mayor and the council set the agenda with the city administrator. Yeah.
But it's also like my role to bring things forward from the staff.
Absolutely.
So if we have things that come up from the staff, that's the stuff that I would be bringing to you, as opposed to, like you said, like there could be something you want to bring up as well. Or somebody might just mention something to me and then we talk about it. But if it's a staff thing, I think we vet it through the staff and then we bring it to you, and this is where you're supposed to talk about it.
Yeah.
I have no problems, like I've talked to Chris, I've talked to others, and about anything, and I've always got the front, how they feel about things too. So I mean, I have no problem with calling our supervisors. So.
And Lisa and I talk about everything every day. So it's just, I guess if you have questions or wonder what is going on, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah,
I think it comes to you everything you need to then process it. And that's the idea of the council packet.
Obviously, you know, with this being your first time on the council, you don't really have anything to compare it to. You know what I mean? Like, whether it's comparing it to one versus another. When I got on this council, and I'll just speak for myself and nobody else, 3 years ago, it was very different. We didn't get near the information that we have now. And there was significantly less conversation when it came to things that was expected us to make decisions upon. I believe that with Lisa here, we've made leaps and bounds toward more open communication, not just with the council, but with the community. We've been provided with more information than I've seen since I was elected. And so again, I guess I look at it comparatively what I had before to what I have now, and I'm very grateful. That's not to say that it's a perfect system by any means, but like to Lisa's point, as a full council, we can't openly discuss a lot of these things amongst ourselves without getting caught up in a walking quorum, which can get us into a lot of trouble. So for her to send these things to us and say, okay, here's something for you guys to talk about, that's, I mean, for a lot of things, there's no other choice in that matter, just again, because of open meeting laws. I'm not saying that you're wrong for feeling that way. I'm just saying that from my perspective and what I've seen over the past 3 years, it's entirely different. It's night and day difference. So that's just my thought on it. And again, everybody
I'd like to
has
say
the
that
right to their own opinion.
these reports are very detailed. If you go through all of it before we have our council meeting, you'll understand. I mean, the memos are in there, all the detailed claims, everything. I mean, we even have called and asked about maybe claims or what's this, or even when we send out RFPs for different things, it can be a squad car or whatever. I've asked questions about that. You know, anyway, that's my.
Again, I don't know how many people look at the packets, John, but I try to look at my job as trying to make your job as easy as I can. Because you pay me to do that. And you have to make the decisions, but you have to have staff that helps you get that. And so when you look at what was out there before, and it was interesting, like on all the Facebook chat, people said that I wasn't transparent. And so someone said something and it's, you know, we're trying to say, like, we used to record the meetings and now we put them out on YouTube for people to watch, even if they can't watch live. And we used to only put the agenda out there. And then even when you got your packets before, if I go back, because I had to look for something back from like 2022, it's just kind of a blob of documents. But if you were a council member or a citizen and I put something on the agenda as your city administrator, you had no idea what I was going to talk about. You just saw what the agenda item said, or if I put a document in there. And so my investment of time, which I think is worth it, in the memo that every agenda item is on there so that if you choose to read that, you get the explanation of everything that I'm thinking, recommending, if there's background information, if you have an ordinance that we're going to talk about, I don't expect you to go online and find it, it's on there. And so while you still only have sort of the weekend and Monday to look at it, we're trying to at least be helpful to give you all the tools in the packet and then also put that whole thing online so that if someone else just saw the agenda, they can just as much for the public learn exactly the same thing that you're being provided for information. So you're welcome to come and see me at any time. I don't know that it's appropriate for us to try and vet, you know, that's kind of what Tim's talking about, is I can't ask all of you what you think and then come back to the meeting because we're sort of breaking the spirit of what you do as a body is meant to be in public, which is kind of a good and bad thing about democracy and the republic form of government that we provide.
But I also wish that the citizens would actually read the memos before they comment on Facebook. They take the agenda item and then they go off on Facebook and they don't know any of the details. And before it goes from you to you to you to you to you to you to you and all these people respond, it ends up not even being what's relevant. And it's really hard to not want to comment, but we don't
I
comment.
think that takes time for people to understand that we are being transparent and trying to do better. So give it time.
How about you, Adam?
Well, I'm doing all right. No, I'm glad we're pumping the brakes on and looking at other options on our big debate. I'm happy with that, you know, and, I want people to know that part. And, I'm ready to call it a session, guys.
Yeah, all right. Well, with everything being done, we can go ahead and adjourn this meeting.
7:32.